שבת, פרק שלישי, משנה א'. כיוון שסיים הפרק הקודם בעניין חמין, זוכרים שאמרנו וטומנים את החמים, ככה גמרנו את זה פעם שעברה, we added last chapter that you are allowed to put the חמין, in other words, בין הארבעים, you're allowed to put it on the fire, you're allowed to put it in some things that מוסיף אבל, לא מוסיף אבל, we discussed it last time, וטומנים את החמים, ממשיך גם פרקנו בהלכות חמין. Also in our chapter it talks about cooking food on Shabbat.
מעניין שזה אומר הלכות חמין ולא הלכות בישול או משהו. ממש חמין.
And there's going to be a difference, by the way, between bishun and chamin. Chamin usually means to heat up water. Usually, that's what it means. Doesn't mean, yeah. Chamin usually means to heat up water.
To heat up the water.
Yeah, it doesn't usually mean cooking, but it's the same idea. Okay. We're going to see not exactly the same. We're going to see soon. ולהבנת משנתנו והמשניות הבאות יש להקדים. So before we even start, we need to know some rules, some basic rules that we need to start when it comes to Shabbat. Again, we're not going to learn halacha over here, but at least we're going to understand the halacha once we read it. שהמאכלים שמכנים בערב שבת לשבת, נוהגים מהם בשני אופנים. When you prepare food from Friday to Shabbat, there's two ways of preparations. What are the two ways? א', שמשאירים את הקדרה עם התבשיל על הקיריים. Sometimes you leave the pot with the food on the kiraim, on the stove. And we're going to talk about the stove that they had in their days, not in our days. It's a completely different thing. כדי שהתבשיל יהיה חם. So you do that in order that the pot, the food is going to be warm. You want to eat the next day with some warm food. וזה נקרא שהייה. And this is called שהייה. By the way, it's not only for the next day, it's also for the middle at night. Because you put it Friday, you go to shul, you come back, it will be cold already. So you want it, if you put it outside of the fire. So you put it on the fire.
All the time. All the Shabbat.
Yeah, but again, you're thinking our way. They
didn't put it all the Shabbos in bed?
For them, it was difficult for the next day. Because usually it wouldn't last for the next day.
Why?
Because
you put it in the heat.
Yeah, but there's
cook.
Yeah, but the material, the wood inside the ovens would not last for 8 hours, 10 hours. Usually cooking material will last. Moshe, how long in an oven? The all-time oven. If you put cooking material, how much would it last? 2 hours, 3 hours? Yeah. That's it.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, that's what it lasts. So in a regular... Oh, very good. I don't know if they would eat ochel kar. Wait, we're going to see. Wait. That's what I'm saying. But have in mind that the regular way of cooking, the way they cooked every day, it's good enough for Friday night. It's not going to be good enough necessarily for Shabbos morning. Yeah? Just have it in mind. But this is called shihiyah. Usually shihiyah, in our understanding right now that we're thinking about it, is for Friday night.
Yeah.
You need it warm for Friday night. It's not going to keep warm in a regular oven, we're going to see soon, for the next morning. It's too long. But, that's the first thing that we need to understand. This is shihiyah, to leave it. שמורידים אותם מהקיריים בערב שבת. There's another way to do this. You would remove them from the fire on ערב שבת, וטומנים אותם בדבר המשמר את חומם. And you would put them inside another container. If you just leave it in the oven, it's going to stay cold by the next morning. Yeah, almost 18 hours later, you're going to eat it. It's going to stay cold.
So what else they have to...
So what did they do? They used to take like a lot of clothes or zero, and used to put it inside or bury it in the ground and put sand on top, and then you take it out. It keeps the heat. Yeah, there's ways to do it. Yeah. וטומנים אותם בדבר המשמר את חומם, וזה נקרא הטמנה. And this is called dipping it in. Let's call it dipping it in, הטמנה. Burying it. It's like burying it. וכבר הזכרנו שאפילו מבעוד יום אסור לטמון בדבר המוסיף הבל. And we already explained that even from Be'od Yom, we're not allowed to put it in something that is going to increase the heat. Ki im bedavar meshamer et hachom belvad. You're only allowed to put it in something that only retains the heat, but not increases. Dinei atmana yevoru b'perek haba. We're going to learn atmana in the next chapter. We're not going to deal with it right now. V'inu mishnatenu dana binyan shihiyah. So we're going to deal today with leaving it on. We're going to see some kira. The first thing we're going to be discussed is a kira. Now, before we go to discuss, kira is actually no, completely different. You probably saw it in Africa. You probably saw it by you. In Africa, you can see it a lot. It's made out of usually clay, or you can make it out of bricks. It's like this. It's a box like this, but this tall, right? About this tall. You put the wood. There's an opening over here for the wood. You put the wood inside. There's 2 holes right on top of it, and you will take the pot and you will sink it in the hole. You will sink it in the hole, and the fire from underneath will go up and warm the thing up. And that's what they used to cook, everyday cooking. That was the stove. That's what they used to do. There used to be a stick next to it. She wants it a little bit more coals, less coals. Should go like this to bring up the flame, not up the flame. You know what it looks like. This is a kira, usually like a box like this with 2 holes on the top. 2 holes on the top. That's called the kira. Our ovens, by the way they look, the reason why they look like this is because they remember the kira. They made the ovens like the kira. Yeah, that's why it's round, usually. In the ovens, in the regular ovens today, it's 4 round things. In those times, it was 2 round things. And this was the kira. And you can see it, if you go to Africa, you can see it a lot. I'm sure in India, you can see still. China, you probably can see it. Same way they've been doing it for thousands of years. Okay, so let's start. Kira, min tanur lebishul. It's a type of oven for cooking. Again, you remember, cooking at that time was with wood. Umasikim oto befnim. You put the wood inside. ועליה מקום לשפתת 2 גדרות. And on top there's a place to put 2 pots. Now the pots, the flames, actually they go inside the pots. So the flames are right on the pot from the bottom. Right? It's like
the pot go down
that going into the flame, yeah.
Just a hole.
Very good. And it holds it on the top, like this, like halfway through the pot or whatever. Okay. Now, our case is going to be that you didn't put wood inside. If you would have put in wood inside this kira, it will be a problem. So in our case, we're going to secure that we put inside it kash ugvava, straw and little things. Gvava, we're going to see what it is soon. Kash, haynu kanei shibulim shufradu me'agargarim. Hey. Just like regular hay. גבבה, היינו שארית הקש ועצים דקים שגובבים מלקטים מן השדות. And this is small little זרדים קוראים לזה בעברית. Small little ones, not big chunks. What's the idea? Think about it this way. It will not turn into coal. It's not going to...
So thin.
It's so thin.
How long can it hold? It's not going to hold either.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone quick. It's gone quick. That's the point. It's gone. That's going to see the point. It's gone quick. So it says if you put it bikash ugvava, that's what you're going to put underneath. Notnim alea al hakira tavshil. Then you're allowed to leave on such a cooking utensil, the kira. You're allowed to put cooked food me'erev Shabbat on Friday. כדי להשלטו עליה בשבת, so it will remain there during Shabbat. Why? לפי שהקש והגבבה אינם נעשים גחלים. It's never going to turn into coals. ואין חשש, and therefore, by the time you come back from shul, or even the housewife, again, you have to remember what...
This was inside your house? No.
Yeah, sometimes it was a little bit outside the house, or even inside the house a little bit. Yeah, you can have with a chimney. Yeah, but usually it will be outdoors a little bit. But when you say outdoors, the outdoors and the house was in the same... They lived also outdoors. It's not like today where everybody lives in the house. Yeah, okay. It's right outside. Ve'en chashash. So the idea here, the rabbis now they're thinking. You know how the housewife, what does she do all day long? She cooks. She cooks all day long. That's pretty much that's what she does. What is she going to, and cooking all day long, you know one of the things that she used to do, she needs more flame, she needs less flame. How does she get more flames and less flames? She has a stick, and when she wants more flames, she goes like this, on the coals, and the fire starts up again. There's coals inside, and the fire starts up again. So they're saying like this: we are not trusting anybody that's used to go like this all day long on Shabbat. Even he's not going to do this. That's right. So over here, we're going to let her do this. We're going to trust her.
Why? With the Zradim?
With the Zradim. Why? Because there's no reason for her to go like this, because it's gone in 2 seconds. In other words, it's not going to turn into coals. She's doing nothing by going like this, because there's nothing to catch. So therefore, we let it happen. We let it happen. Okay? ואין חוששים שמא יחטא בגחלים בשבת, and we're not worried that she might or he might is going to go like this in the coals in Shabbat, because there's no coals over there. It doesn't leave any coals. It burns like this. It's gone. Afterward, there's empty. There's nothing you can do over there. But if you were smart, if you left something over there that's going to burn for a long time, for example, big gefet. In gefet, what's gefet? Gefet היא פסולת של זיתים. It is what remains out of the olives. Also the skins. After you press everything out, after you press all the oil out, whatever is reminded, that's called gefet. After you took all the oil out. Or sumsumim, or sesame seed. Why? Because it's like fuel. It burns very, very good. It stays for a long time. המשתיירים לאחר הוצאת שמנם. This is what is remained after you take the oil from them. So if you light the fire with this gefet, or בעצים, or you used עצים, wood, או שסיכו בעצים, לא ייתן עליה תבשיל מערב שבת, then you are not allowed to put on it food from Friday, כדי להשותו שם בשבת, so that the food will stay there on Shabbat. So you're not allowed to. Why?
Because there is coals.
And so therefore, it's automatic. You're not going to think about it. It says you won't have a choice. You do that all day long. That's what they do. So it says you're going to come to it. You know what's going to happen. You're going to touch it. So therefore, you're not allowed even from Erev Shabbat, even from Friday, don't leave food like this. If you want to leave food, what do you have to do? 2 more things that we're going to learn now. It's called grifa vektima. It's called grifa vektima. Let's look what it says. Ad she'igrof, until he's going to do grifa. What does it mean grifa? Et hagechalim veyesalku min hakira. Until you take out all the coals out of this oven, of the kira, then you're allowed to leave it. In other words, if the coals are there, you're not allowed to leave it there. Take the coals out, and then we'll allow you to leave the pot on there. And you're going to say, why am I leaving the pot for? There's no coals.
It's still hot.
Oh,
because it has
very good. It's still a little bit hot. It still retains the heat. It's not going to retain the heat for when? For tomorrow morning.
Okay.
But it is going to retain the heat for tonight at least. Right? ויש מפרשים, those are explained, עד שיגרוף את הגחלים מתחת הקדרה לצד אחר. Some say it's even enough. We're not going to go to this opinion. You remember that we had 2 holes? Yeah? So as long as you put it under the open hole, the Ran says, okay, we're not going to learn this way. It's just to make it complicated. You have to take all the coals out. Let's put it this way. The Ran looks at it as 2 ovens. That's the question. Is it 2 ovens or not 2 ovens? Yeah, but we're not going to get into this. Yeah, this is the... We'll leave that for some other time. Or there's another thing that you can do. Besides gligrof, what's the other thing?
Put them off.
Oh, you can extinguish them. That's right. Now, they didn't use water to extinguish them in the old time. What did they use? Water was expensive. You had to go to the well. You had to carry it. It wasn't. You don't waste water on fire.
Sand,
או עד שייתן את האפר, or until he's going to give some sand, על גבי הגחלים כדי לצנן. They used to put sand on top of the coals in order to cool them off. מפני שחוששים שמא יחטא בשבת כדי להחיש את הבישול. So you had to cover them. And now when they're covered, you're not worried that you're going to go like this in order to bring out the flames. במה דברים אמורים? What are we talking about? שגזרו חכמים שמא יחטא. It says, when are we worried that the sages are saying, we are worried maybe you're going to come to make the flames? It's when you put two more things that we're going to learn today. בתבשיל שלא בישל קודם השבת. This is a cooked food that wasn't cooked called tzarko. When it's not enough. Maybe if it's enough, you're allowed to. Maybe if it was completely cooked before Shabbat, maybe you'll be allowed to leave it on the fire. And what's completely cooked before Shabbat means?
That you can eat it.
What does it mean? We already know this.
Third cooked.
מאכל בן דורסאי. That's right. מאכל בן דורסאי. That's already cooked. Or, and now they come even further on. או אפילו בישל כל צרכו, or even if it's cooked 100%. אבל שבישול נוסף משבח טעמו, but if it's going to get extra cooked, it's going to become better.
Crispy.
It's going to become nicer. People like it more cooked. I won't let you leave it, even though it's completely cooked. Why? Because you want it better. Oh, שבישול נוסף משבח טעמו. It's called, there's a new, this is you're going to see all the time in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, in the Halacha. This concept is called מצטמק ויפה לו. It becomes smaller and it's good. It becomes better because of it. In other words, there's some food, chont for example, cooked for 3 hours is fully cooked after 3 hours. But if it's cooked for 10 hours, it's much better. It's much better. But if you, for example, take chicken, chicken cutlets, and you put it in the fire, after, if you're going to cook it too much, what's going to happen? It's going to you won't be able to eat it. Chicken cutlet. So, chont, you will not be able to leave it on the fire in this manner. But chicken cutlets, you are. Because no one is going to what? Go and hurry it up because you don't want it more cooked. The idea is you wouldn't want it more cooked. Okay. אבל תבשיל שלא בשל כלל, but if you put on the fire Friday night something that wasn't cooked at all, not even כמאכל בן דורסאי, או בשל כל צרכו, or even if it was cooked and it's 100% cooked, like chont, ובישול נוסף פוגם פטעמו, but if, not like chont, like chicken cutlet, and something else makes it even worse, you don't want it dry, מצטמק ורע לו, here's the other concept, it's getting cooked, but nobody likes it that way, it's too cooked, מותר להשותו על גבי הקירה, then you will be allowed to leave it on top of the קירה, אף על פי שאינה גרופה, even though you don't take out the coals. ולא ניתן אפר על גבי הכחלים, and even though you didn't put sand on the coals. ואין חוששים שמא יחטא בכחלים. In such a manner you're not worried that you're going to add flames to the fire. Why? Because in that manner you say to yourself in your brain, the house says, I don't want more flame.
Yeah, make sure it's not burned.
Yeah, it's even
the opposite.
That's right, it's the opposite. So she knows, for sure in her mind she's not going to go like this. That's what the sage says. So even on Friday they took it out. לפי שהסיח דעתו מן הדבשיל. It's called, she already put in her mind that she's not going to touch it because she knows it's going to make it worse for the food.
She has a problem there because she can make it less flame, so she can touch the coals to move them.
We're not going.
Another problem.
Yeah, usually we're not going to. It's a good question why you're not. I don't think.
The opposite.
Yeah, but I don't think that's something that the sages are worried about. Something you're going to do behisech hadat. To prepare sand and to pour it over the thing, this is not, it's a lot of...
No, not to prepare sand. If you have two after, she put the chicken and suddenly she like, well, look at the flame, it's going to burn. She takes some coals out.
No, she's not. That's not the way they did things. If the chicken is finished, she will take the pot and move it off the fire. There's no reason to take the coals out.
No, if the fire is too hot. Sometimes you put it in and you say, oh, it's too hot. You have to take coals out. The same way that you have to add and make higher fire, sometimes you have a problem that you have a high fire and you want to lower it.
I understand what you say, but
they don't worry about it.
No, but you have to remember our case over here. Over here, it was almost like the sages went into the life of the people. They saw that when the housewife wants more fire, she goes like this automatically. When she wants to extinguish the fire, when it was cooked, what she would do? She wouldn't remove the flames. She would take the pot of the fire. That's what people do.
Okay.
You go by what people, the way people are behaving.
Okay.
So if you take off the fire, what will happen?
Nobody will take the fire down.
It wasn't something. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You will go by what people usually do. Yeah. וכן תבשיל של כל צרכו. Also, there's another way to do it. What happens if you have food that was cooked completely? והכניס בתוכו עבר חי סמוך לבין השמשות. So, yeah, which means that completely raw. עבר חי means raw. Yeah?
Piece of meat.
Piece of meat raw. So now the question is, what do I have over here? Am I looking at it as the
complete tafshil, or
as I look at it? What's the thing over here? It's the tafshil, which is already cooked. Should I look at it, or it is the thing that is non-cooked and I might add fire to it? So should I be worried or shouldn't I be worried? נעשה הכל כתבשיל שלא בשל כלל. It says since you put something that was completely raw, we're going to be stringent. In other words, we're going to say, do not leave it on the fire because you might tear it up to do it. מפני נעשה הכל כתבשיל שלא בשל כלל. Everything, it's actually the opposite of what I said. The logic is opposite. נעשה הכל כתבשיל שלא בשל כלל. Everything is like a food that wasn't cooked at all. מפני שהסיח דעתו ממנו. Because you took your mind away from it.
Why would you take your mind?
Because
the whole thing you wanted to cook.
Because you know for tonight it's not going to be ready anyway. Tonight it's not going to be ready anyway. You're not going to eat it tonight. In other words, you probably left it there for when? For tomorrow. Because for tonight it's 5 hours. Because you know it's not going to be ready. In other words, you showed that you're not interested in it for tonight.
Yeah.
You showed.
Then you're not going to touch.
You're going to eat half an hour, and it's going to take 3 hours to get cooked. And this is no way it's going to be ready by that time. So you're showing that you actually wanted it for the next day or for many hours from now. So you're already with your mind out of the things. Okay. Up to here. Beit Shammai Omrim. Again, we're going to come to the machloket of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai says chamin. So Beit Shammai says when it says the word chamin, it doesn't mean food. What does it mean? Chamin, מים חמים דווקא מותר ליתן על גבי הקירה. We're talking about water over here. He says, water before Shabbat, you're allowed to leave it on the stove. When? לאחר שיגרוף או ייתן אפר על הגחלים. Only after you do גרופה כתומה. כדי להשותם עליה בשבת. לפי שאינם צריכים עוד בישול. Because water do not need more cooked. ואין לחשוש שמא יחטא. And you're not going to worry, maybe you're going to meddle with the coals. But it says food, I'm always going to be worried. Water, people are not worried about it because people didn't do it, Beit Shammai says. But food, אבל לא תבשיל. But it says when it comes to food, I'm always going to be worried. שאף על פי שגרף או נתן את האפר, even though you took out all the coals, or you gave the sand on top of the coals, מחמירים בית שמאי בתבשיל. They are very stringent, the house of Shammai, when it comes to food. שאסור להשותו לקירה בשבת. They never allowed to leave food on the קירה on Shabbat. Never. לפי שאי אפשר לגרוף הכל עד שלא יישאר שם כל ניצוץ. It says, you're saying you're taking all the coals out, but there's always something left. And then automatically you're going to come by, and a little bit of the schmutz over there, she's going to go like this. It says, I'm worried. Yeah, with water it doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything. But with food, a little bit of flame might give it a kick, and in other words, she didn't take her mind off the food yet.
If I would live in that time, I would build them a little box and just put the coals in the box and close it. And it will have flame, and you can't touch them because it's closed box for Shabbos.
What do you mean?
Inside the stove, do another box, and before Shabbos you put all the kachalim sham, it's all closed, you have the holes up there, and you can't touch it.
I don't think...
And it still keep the heat.
But I don't think you would do it, because it's not comfortable to move the coals down inside. The housewife...
No, in the middle, right between the two pots. This is the stove, this is a pot, this is a pot.
Uh-huh.
You build here a little box, opening here, okay? You put all the coals in there, and you close it, and up in the box there is holes that let the coals heat, and there is no way you can touch the coals.
That's not the kira. That's an oven. That's why it's called the kira. Kira means this is the way they cooked all the time. That's the way.
No, it's an invention for them.
No. They would have such a thing.
Oh, they would have it.
We're going to discuss it in the next one. Yeah. Okay. But this is a kira. That's the way they used to cook on a regular day. She doesn't have time to go with boxes and clothes and she wants to cook quickly. That's tomnim. We didn't get to that. That's tomnim. We'll learn that something else. Yeah. השהיה. Now we do it. ובית הלל אומרים, so בית שמאי are always machmir when it comes to food. Beit Hillel says, Beit Shammai, you're too stringent. If there's a little bit of schmutz over there, we're not going to worry that she's going to touch, even with food. ובית הלל אומרים, חמין ותבשיל, whether it is hot water, whether it is food. בין מים חמין, בין בתבשיל, מותר ליתן על הקירה, כדי להשתם עליה בשבת. You're allowed to give on the קירה, so that you will leave them on Shabbat. שמאחר שגרף את הגחלים, או נתן את האפר, so it says, once you took away the coals, or you put sand on top, שוב אין חוששים שמא יחטא בגחלים בשבת. It says, she shows that her mind is not on it anymore, and it's enough. And Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai is going to say, no, she's going to forget. 2 seconds later, she's going to see something over there, and it's automatic. Okay. When it comes to water, it says it doesn't make a difference, so she doesn't care. But when it comes to food, it says it might cook it a little bit more, and then it's going to make a big difference.
I don't understand so much why doesn't he care. If the guy wants a cup of coffee, and the water is not boiling, put fire, what are you doing?
So I'll tell you what the difference is. Water is warm water, or the temperature of the water a little bit higher, a little bit lower, doesn't make so much of a difference. But if you will be able to get the heat up enough in a stew or in something, it's going to continue now to cook for a long time. Yeah, it's going to cook for a long... Now it's cooked, and before it wasn't cooked. So that's a big difference. That's why Beit Hillel says, Beit Shammai differentiates between the two.
Itself.
Yeah. But Beit Hillel doesn't do it, and he says they're all the same. Beit Shammai אומרים, נוטלים בשבת מעל הקירה. Beit Shammai says you're allowed to take from Shabbat, from the fire. כלומר שאפילו מים חמים שהתירו להשתם על גירה גרופה וכתומה, that even water that you're allowed to leave it on kira without coals or extinguished coals, מותר אומנם ליטול אותם בשבת מעל גבי הקירה. You're allowed to take this water from on top of the קירה, אבל לא מחזירים, but I will not allow you to put it back, לאחר שנטלם, אסור להחזירם על הקירה. Why? There's no danger that you're going to come to do anything. So it says,
same heat. What difference does it make to you?
And it's much less heat now after you moved it, because now it's open completely. Everything is gone and there's nothing there. and there's nothing there. So what's the problem? שנראה כמבשל בשבת. It says, what do you want to do? It looks like you're cooking. What are you doing? Putting things in the oven on Shabbos? Nobody knows how much. In other words, Beit Shammai says, how much wools you have over there or what you did to the coals. You're looking like you're cooking. ובית הלל אומר, and the house of Hillel says, we're not worried about מראית עין, אף מחזירים. It says you're also allowed to return as long as there's no coals inside. Yeah, as long as no coals are. בין מים חמים, בין תבשיל, whether it is water, whether it is cooked food, מותר להחזירם על הקירה לאחר שנטלם. You're allowed to put them back on this kira after you took them away. ברם, but, לא התירו בית הלל להחזירם אלא כל זמן שהם בידו. It's another reason. By the way, this is also like in today. Yeah, you have to have, it's not enough to have in mind, I'm taking off for example, I'll give you an example that a lot of people do.
The cholent.
Some people have the chont Friday night and they want to have it the next morning. Usually people don't do it with chont, but I tell you what to do it with, soup. Sometimes people with the soup, they want to have soup Friday night, and they also want to have hot soup the next day. So they take it off the stove, the soup, they put it on the counter, they serve everybody, and then they want to put it back. He says, you're not allowed to. Even though you had it in mind to put it back. So he says, what's having it in mind? It says, at least you have to have one hand on the pot at all time. If you have one hand on the pot on all time, then we're allowed.
I don't understand why it's not allowed. Because it's the same fire, it's the same tafshil. From what purpose is not allowed?
You're showing that
you're mashhen.
It's not.
Shiyah. It's the same shiyah that was the shiyah kodem, no?
That was before Shabbos. This is on Shabbos.
Okay,
there's
but
a big difference.
The heat is even a little less.
They say there's no heat at all.
And you're not cooking, you're not doing nothing.
Yeah, but you are used to putting it back now. There's no heat at all over there now.
Right, so why can't I put it back? I don't understand. Lemarit ayin?
For example, first of all, Beit Shammai says it looks like you're cooking. So let's take it what Beit Hillel says. בין מים חמים, בין תבשיל, מותר להחזירם לקירה לחשלם, ברם, it says you're allowed to. In other words, I'm not worried about מראית עין, as long as what? As long, ברם לא התירו בית הלל להחזירה, אלא כל זמן שהם בידו. It says, as long as you have in mind the proof in your mind that they're going back. And what's the proof?
That you have it.
That you're holding it. Once you take it off your fire and you're going to Zeu, now you don't have proof that you were meaning to put it back.
Why don't they have the case, what if I take this marak that you talked about, and it's on the pot, and I open it, and I take, and
that's cooking.
And I give to the people.
That's cooking on Shabbos. Cooking on Shabbos is going like this on the fire.
If I go in and take?
Yeah, cooking. That's cooking.
But there is no fire, you say.
It's hot. There's heat. There's some heat that retains over there. Or even
so
even if there's no heat, it looks like cooking.
So you have to
take it off.
Out, hold in two hands, and maybe somebody else take.
You don't have to hold in two hands. You can hold in one hand.
One hand, but and somebody else, and then.
That's it. אלא כל זמן שהם בידו, but the entire time that they're in his, שלא ניחם על גבי דבר אחר, he did not place them on something else, אבל אם ניחם על גבי הקרקע או על גבי דבר אחר, but once he put them on the ground or on something else, אף לדעת בית הלל אסור להחזירם על הקירה. Even the house of Hillel says, not allowed to return them, שהרי זה כמשהה לכתחילה בשבת, because what are you doing? You're allowed to להשהות on something as long as it's not a kira. Over here, it is a kira. There is some heat retained in that thing. And even if there's no heat, it is made to be for some heat. So if we allow you today to do it, you're going to come and use that thing in some other day when there's going to be heat there. So therefore, we will never allow you to do that.
So it's looked to me like Bet Shammai used to eat cold food for Shabbos.
No.
How?
Why?
How they? Because we don't learn Latmin yet.
All the Shabbat.
This is only that's Erev Shabbat.
Yeah,
Okay,
and the last thing that we did is, but not returning.
Not returning.
They
can
can
take it out.
they can leave it there for the entire time.
Okay.
As you can see.
But, okay, so they need new food for Shabbos.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in other words, they should have 2 pots in the fire.
Okay.
Take 1 pot for fire and leave the other pot for the next day, if that's what you want.
Okay.
Of course, it has to be go with the katum.
Yeah.
And it's only
no fire, no nothing.
And there's no fire. Yeah. ביארנו משנתנו על פי הברטנורה, we explained this Mishnah according to ברטנורה, שכן פירשו רוב מפרשי המשנה, this is most of the commentaries explained that way. אבל רש"י ותוספות מפרשים משנתנו בדרך אחרת. רש"י and Tosfos explain this whole Mishnah differently. על פי הגמרא, they go according to the Gemara, שכן לדעתם הלכה היא כחנניה. According to them, the law is like חנניה. האומר, what does חנניה says? כל שהוא כמאכל בן דורסאי. This is the way I put it in anyway. It says anything that it at least a third cooked, מבושל שליש בשולו, חצי לפי הרמב"ם, מותר להשותו על גבי הקירה, אף על פי שאינה גופה וכתומה. You're allowed to leave it on the kira even though it's not גופה. That's the way I learned it from the beginning, by the way, because I remember from the Gemara probably. ולפי זה מפרשים הם את הרש משנתנו שמדובר בעניין החזרה בשבת. And they learn even the beginning about returning on Shabbat. וכך הוא לדעתם פירוש המשנה, so let's learn it according to them. קירה שהסקו בקש ובגבבה, they learn that קירה that you put קש and גבבה in it, מחזירים עליה תבשיל בשבת. You're allowed to put back on it food on Shabbat, בגפת ובעצים לא יחזיר עד שיגרוף או שייתן את האפר. But it's גפר ועצים, then you're not allowed to return it until it's not going to be there anymore. וכאן יש להוסיף במשנה, and over here we can add in the Mishnah, אבל להשהות משהין. So what's the difference? It's exactly the same as ours. It says, no, it's not exactly the same. Because it says, we're allowed to leave it with gefet and etzim, according to them. אף על פי שאינה גרופה וכתומה, even though it's not... Yeah, so they let it...
the fire.
Yeah, even though they have the fire. ומה משהים? And what are they allowed to משהים? And then they have the מחלוקת בית שמאי and בית הלל. Yeah? בית שמאי אומרים חמים אבל לא תבשיל, the house of שמאי says water but not food, ובית הלל אומרים חמים ותבשיל, and בית הלל says חמים ותבשיל. This is not the way we learned it. ודין חזרה שנוד ברישא אינו דברי הכל אלא מחלוקת בית שמאי ובית הלל. And this is actually a disagreement between the house of שמאי and the house of הלל. שבית שמאי אומרים that the house of שמאי says נוטלים אבל לא מחזירים. It says you're allowed to take from such a case but you're not allowed to return. ובית הלל אומרים אף מחזירים. In other words, they read the Mishnah about החזרה in the beginning, which means even with gefet and etzim inside.
Okay.
That's the way they learn it. We didn't learn it that way. Our way is much easier to learn in the words of the Mishnah anyway.